Hey guys, welcome back to the Final Whistle podcast. I'm your host, Luca Wilson, and today we have a big episode going on. I missed last week's episode, so we have a lot to unpack. We're going to be catching up with free agency in the world of football and a little bit of March Madness talk at the end. So let's not waste any time and let's get into it. So, first, we're going to do the free agency reaction. A lot of big movers, and we're just going to go through the list. I'm going to talk about the ones that I like the most and just the overall winners and losers of free agency. First, the Cardinals signed Josh Sweat, edge, 4 years, 76 million. I think that the Eagles had to let someone go. They let him and Milton Williams go, which we'll talk about later. They just had to clear up money. When you win the Super Bowl, you never run it back with the same team, and that's why it's so hard to 2 and 3-peat like the Chiefs did. Um, and yeah, this is a great signing for the Cardinals. Need to shore up that defense. Really need to shore up the whole team, but this is a good start. Next, my Carolina Panthers made two pretty good moves. You get Trayvon Moehrig, 3 years, 51 million, a pretty good safety. We need defensive help, and we also signed Tershawn Wharton from the Chiefs, 3 years, 54 million, a good run stopper in the middle, just to give Bryce Young some help that he doesn't have to score 34 points a game. He can score 17, 21 points sometimes and still walk out with a dub. And another team that did pretty good was the Bears. They signed Grady Jarrett, 3 years, 43.5 million, and signed center Drew Dahlman, 3 years, 42 million. Good moves. They made some trades too, which we'll talk about later. But I really like the direction that Ben Johnson and the Bears are going in. The Broncos made three pretty big signings. Talana Hufunga, the safety from the 49ers, 3 years, 45 million, coming off an ACL injury. 49ers didn't have the money to pay him. They lost a lot of guys. Broncos signed another 49er, linebacker Dre Greenlaw, 3 years, 35 million. And then they also got tight end Evan Ingram, 3 years, 23 million, or 2 years, 23 million. Pretty good signings from the Broncos. Sean Payton's really being aggressive, getting in this rookie contract window for Drew Lock, and I think this is really going to pay off for them. Lions get cornerback DJ Reed from the Jets, 3 years, 48 million. Also a pretty good signing. He had a lot of injuries on that defense, and I think just keep getting pieces will really help this Lions team hopefully make a Super Bowl run that they've been wanting so bad. Packers, you get Aaron Banks, also from the 49ers, offensive guard, 4 years, 77 million, and then Nate Hobbs, 4 years, 48 million. I feel like Nate Hobbs' production was a little iffy with the Raiders. But this market is expensive, and you had to pay them. The Colts, I think their DC is one of the biggest winners of this free agency class. He goes from that terrible Bengals defense, and the Colts show him that they want to win. Getting two secondary pieces with Cam Bynum, 4 years, 60 million, and Charvarius Ward, cornerback, 3 years, 60 million. They're going to help Anthony Richardson as much as they can. They will go as far as he goes, or Daniel Jones, which we'll talk about in a minute. They signed him for 1 year, 12 million. So a little QB battle for Anthony Richardson if he stinks it up again. But I hope that he has a good year. He just hasn't shown the accuracy that you would want from a quarterback. Under 50% completion percentage is never going to get the job done for a playoff contending team. Next, the Rams. You get rid of Cooper Kupp, but you sign Devontae Adams, 2 years, 46 million. I mean, Devontae Adams is a playmaker, and Matthew Stafford is going to be able to sling it all over the yard with him and Puka. I think you have two different receivers now instead of Cooper and Puka. I think this is a really good signing. The Vikings might have had the best free agency. You get Will Fries, Javon Hargrave, Ryan Kelly, and Isaiah Rodgers. 3 years, 60 for Will Fries, 2 years, 30 for Javon Hargrave, 3 years, 60 for Jonathan Allen, and it was 5 years, 88 for Will Fries. A big price to pay for Will Fries, but he was very productive on the Colts. And then you gave 2 years, 18 to Ryan Kelly and 2 years, 15 to Isaiah Rodgers. Very good. Giving J.J. McCarthy, or if you want to go sign Aaron Rodgers, you're giving them the pieces to succeed. You already have the best receiver in the league. So I hope personally that it is J.J. McCarthy at quarterback for them next year. and he just balls out. A lot of people doubted him, but he already has that championship pedigree at Michigan, and he knows how to throw the ball, and they're protecting him as well. So I think there's big things for the Vikings next year. And yeah, next Patriots. They had the most money to spend. Their biggest signings was Milton Williams, 4 years, 104 million. Carlton Davis, 3 years, 60 million, and Harold Landry, 3 years, 43.5 million. You don't get the receiver that you wanted. You don't get Cooper Kupp. You don't trade for DK. You don't get T. Higgins or Chris Godwin. So I think this is still kind of a lackluster free agency because who's Drake May throwing it to? You can't throw it to Kendrick Bourne your whole career. You need a number one receiver. So you're not really helping him out there, but you bolster that defense. Mike Vrabel is a defensive guy, so I think this is still pretty good signings, just a fail in the sense that you don't get that wide receiver one for Drake May. Next, the Saints, they signed Justin Reed, 3 years, 37.5 million. I think it's safe to say the Chiefs dynasty is over. You lose so many players, and you don't really do much in free agency. You decide to keep Trey Smith over Joe Tooney, and I think Tooney is the better offensive lineman. So that's a little iffy there, but we'll see. Only time will tell. You have Patrick Mahomes still. Next, the Giants get Paulson Adebo, 3 years, 54 million. I personally love Paulson Adebo. He was probably my second ranked corner in this class, in this free agency class, and he's gonna do good for the Giants, I think. And they're trying to make that push and save Brian Daboll's job, which who knows if that'll happen. And they also signed Javon Holland, 3 years, 45 million. So they're making that push at least on the defensive end. And then the Jets signed Justin Fields, 2 years, 40 million. I'm hoping for his success. He gets his college receiver in Garrett Wilson, but the Jets franchise kind of stinks. Woody Johnson is not a good owner, and you have his son who's like 16, 17, trying to run the business. So the Jets are just dysfunctional, and hopefully Justin Fields can turn it around, though. Steelers get Darius Slay, 1 year, 10 million. Not much to say there. It's Darius Slay. Seahawks, Sam Darnold, 3 years, 100.5 million. When I say that, 100.5 million, not 150. Um, Sam Darnold, I don't know what the Seahawks are doing. I'll talk about this a little later. You get rid of a bunch of people and you sign Sam Darnold and you trade for Cooper Kupp, but you get rid of DK. I feel like it's a lot of just staying afloat moves. The NFC West is up for taking, and I don't think the Seahawks did anything to grab at the division, but only time will tell. They also got DeMarcus Lawrence, 3 years, 42 million. I feel like he's getting a little washed, but he still probably has some productive years left in him. And then the Bucks get Hassan Reddick. Not much to say, kind of a diva. We'll see what he does. And then the Titans signed Dan Moore, 4 years, 82 million, trying to get their future quarterback some help. And we'll see if Dan Moore is the answer there in Tennessee. Next, we're going to talk about the trades that have happened so far. Commanders, they trade for Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil. I love what Dan Quinn and the Commanders are doing. They're giving Jaden Daniels all the help in the world. I know Deebo's going to take some slot reps away from Terry McLaurin, like I talked in the last podcast, but I still think this is a great signing or a great trade. I mean, you didn't give up much, so if he is a fail, you say, oh, there's that fourth round pick that we gave up. That's kind of just whatever. And then Laramie Tunsil, the only bright spot on Houston's O-line, is gone now. And he's with the Commanders, and I think the Commanders are going to be a scary team to compete with the Eagles next year for that division. Next, Steelers trade for DK. You still don't have a quarterback, but at least you have two receivers that'll crash out at any moment. This will either be a great duo or a terrible one. They both have the same mentality, and that can really hurt them sometimes. Like getting ejected, getting in fights, complaining in the media for the ball. George Pickens and DK are a lot alike, and I think that could end up biting them in the back overall. Next, the Bears, like I said, they made some moves, again, trading for Jonah Jackson and trading for Joe Tooney. I love these trades. You're giving Caleb Williams help that he so desperately needs. You're really fortifying that offensive guard play that was so bad for you. And overall, like I said, I love what Ben Johnson is doing. You just hope that he keeps it up and knows how to call a game as a head coach. Cowboys trade for Kier Elam, corner from the Bills, and Kenneth Murray from the Titans. I was so high on Kenneth Murray coming out of college, and he hasn't really done much yet. He's had some injury problems as well. But I also thought Kira Elam was pretty good. I don't know. I guess he didn't have such a great season this year, but in the past he was pretty good. People were thinking he's one of the future great DBs in this league, and then it turns out that they're shipping him away to Dallas, and hopefully that helps Dallas, and hopefully they have their two-star corners back this year if they want to do anything instead of just having the same old Cowboys regimen, win 10 games, lose to the Packers in the playoffs, something like that. Texans, they traded for Christian Kirk and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I mean, you lose Tank Dell, you lose Diggs, you go get Christian Kirk. He's definitely not on their level, but he's serviceable for C.J. Stroud because C.J. Stroud needs help. He had a decent sophomore year, not as good as his rookie year though. So we'll see what happens there. And then C.J. Gardner-Johnson on his third team in 3 years, just won the Super Bowl. Obviously, the Eagles didn't think he was a valuable enough piece, so they traded him away to the Texans. He's kind of a liability in some zone coverages. We'll see what happens. He does love to get in players' heads, though. Raiders get Geno Smith. I love this trade for the Raiders. You can tell Pete Carroll wants to win. Tom Brady wants to win, and they go get Geno Smith, a very serviceable quarterback who I think is on the same level as Sam Darnold, if not better. I think Sam Darnold was the product of Kevin O'Connell. And yeah, I just think that the Raiders made a very good move. And the Vikings trade for Jordan Mason, a very good backup running back for the Vikings. He was very good for the 49ers last year and will be a great piece for the Vikings to take some of the load off of Aaron Jones, who is getting up there. Now we will talk about contract extensions and players that have been retained by their teams. First, Ravens left tackle Ronnie Stanley signs a 3-year, $60 million deal. Great for the Ravens. You needed to retain this guy. He fortifies your O-line. Lamar needs every piece that he can get. You signed DeAndre Hopkins. Who knows? This is kind of an Odell Beckham signing in my eyes. I don't know how much great ball DeAndre Hopkins has left, and that's kind of signified with the $6 million contract that he got. Bills extend Josh Allen 6 years, $330 million. He's worth every penny. Just won the MVP. A very exciting quarterback. Even if you don't think that he deserved the MVP, he is still a great quarterback. And yeah, the Bills also extended Gregory Rousseau, Khalil Shakir, and Terrell Bernard. Greg Rousseau got 4 years, $80 million. Shakir got 4 years, $60 million, and Terrell Bernard got 4 years, $50 million. I think these are all great signings. You're keeping your team together, who you're hoping the Chiefs slip up, and you can slide into that Super Bowl spot this year, which makes sense. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't think it's broke for the Bills. They just couldn't get over that hump in Kansas City, and now it's a little less of a hill to get over with so many pieces leaving. Panthers extend J.C. Horn 4 years, $100 million. The most underrated cornerback in the league. He's a lockdown. Will lock down a whole half of the field. Second best corner in his draft class because of Pat Surtain. But I love J.C. Horn, and I think he is an elite corner. He's a top 5 corner in the league, and this also helps the Panthers defense, which so desperately needs it. T. Higgins got tagged, obviously. I mean, you're asking him to be more disgruntled and just want to leave. So I don't know how effective the tag's going to be. I think they do need to change the rules, though. I think a person should only be able to get tagged once in their career, or this just keeps happening. And a player has no financial security. Like if T. Higgins gets hurt next year and his career just takes a drop from that, he never gets the bag that he should have gotten. Instead, he's being tagged for the second consecutive year. And I think the NFL really needs to change this rule, just like Kirk Cousins, what happened to him in Washington. Next, Myles Garrett fleeces the Browns, 4 years, $160 million. He said he wanted to leave. He doesn't want to go from Cleveland to Canton, and here he is going from Cleveland to Canton. He's not going to win in Cleveland. They're not going to get a winning team around him. So, get your bag and go to the Hall of Fame, and that's really it. You'll be making $40 million a year. So there's not really any room for a quarterback or receivers or anything else I don't see why. I mean, if you just wanted your money, that's cool, but don't say you don't want to go from Cleveland to Canton and then just sign an extension and let your career rot like Joe Thomas. Next, the Chiefs tagged Trey Smith. Like I said, I don't know why they picked Tooney over Smith, but probably just because he's younger. Nick Bolton signs a 3-year, $45 million contract, and Hollywood Brown signs a 1-year, $11 million contract. I just don't think the Chiefs are the same Chiefs. I mean, obviously, I'll admit when I'm wrong, and if next year they go to the Super Bowl again, I'll put my sword down and say that the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. But right now, I just don't see that forecasted in their future. Next, the Raiders give Max Crosby the 3-year, $106 million contract. One of the best, most exciting edges in the league. One of the best players in the league. Well deserved for Max Crosby. The Vikings get Byron Murphy back 3 years, $66 million, and they get Aaron Jones back 2 years, $20 million. Like I said, I really like where the Vikings are going. I think they have a very high ceiling next year. Maybe not a Super Bowl ceiling, but a very good ceiling at that. The Saints get Chase Young, 3 years, $51 million. I don't know in which direction are the Saints really going, but time will only tell. Yeah, decent signing. We'll just have to see what direction the Saints are going to go with the quarterback position. Eagles, Bond, 3 years, $51 million. A stud linebacker, defensive player of the year votes this year. Saquon Barkley signs a 2-year, $41 million extension. The running back is finally getting paid again. One of my favorite positions in football. I think the position died for a little bit. You don't know why. Running wins games, just like the Eagles showed this year with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. And then the Bucks get back Chris Godwin, 3 years, $66 million. The Buccaneers are an air raid offense. I mean, not much else to say. Baker likes to throw the ball all across the yard, and Chris Godwin and Mike Evans just put up numbers. So now we will talk about the winners and the losers. Me personally of this free agency class. First, biggest winner, Caleb Williams. The Bears are showing you that they want to win, and they want to win with you. So, I mean, they're putting the O-line around you. Now you just have to sit comfortably in the pocket and show why you were picked number one. Next, Vikings. I mean, like I said, I think this is one of the best free agencies. J.J. McCarthy is also a winner under the Vikings realm. They just give you so many pieces. They trade away they let Sam Darnold walk, and they bolster that O-line, bolster that defense, and just ready to rerun it with Kevin O'Connell. Next, Colts DC, Lou Amorano. You go from the bad defense of the Cincinnati Bengals to a defense that's looking very promising, even if their quarterback play is a question mark. Next, I think a winner is the Carolina Panthers. They make a lot of little signings as well with Bobby Brown, and you get Tershawn Wharton. You get that DN from Minnesota last year. I forget his name right now, but you get a lot of little signings and a couple big ones to really bolster this defense. Adam Thielen said he was coming back, so the Panthers. I'm looking at maybe even a 500 season next year for the Panthers. Losers, 49ers. You almost lose your whole team. Not the season that they thought, or not the offseason that they were expecting, with losing Debo, releasing Kyle Juszczyk and then signing him back. I don't understand that, but yeah, I just think they're a big loser in this free agency because of how much money they had to get off the books. Next loser, Anthony Richardson. The pressure is on. Year 3, you have to progress, or Daniel Jones will start most of the games this year. I say give it about 5 games of Anthony Richardson not playing up to the standard, and Daniel Jones will be the quarterback for the Colts for the remaining of the season. There's a target on your back. Daniel Jones is trying to resurrect his career, and you got the bullseye on you. So, I mean, we'll see where that goes with the Indianapolis Colts. Next, C.J. Stroud. They trade away your best left tackle, and then they give you no help. They also trade Kenyon Green, which is good. I have a friend that was texting me all during the season how bad Kenyon Green has been for them. But they don't really give you any help. They give you Christian Kirk, but they don't make any improvements from O-line. Maybe they're waiting for the draft. But I was expecting some receiver help for the draft for them. Next, we'll be talking a little bit about March Madness. It's the time of the year. Everybody's favorite time of the year. Definitely my favorite time of the year. So you got to talk a little basketball as well. First, the SEC sets a record with 14 teams in the tournament. I think this is all with the conference realignment. You got to give props to how well it's done in the college world for basketball. Big Ten gets a bunch of new teams, and the SEC gets a bunch of new teams. And now, 14 teams in the tournament. There's high level of competition in the SEC and a bunch of good teams. You want to go where the money's at, of course, if you're a college athlete, so you go to the SEC or the Big Ten. But also, you want to play. So I think this is still good on the SEC to get this many teams in the tournament. And I think we will see a SEC will crown the national champion this year. And also, Duke has two great freshmen, Cooper Flag and Kneppel. If he's on, Duke will make the national championship. I firmly believe it. Who knows about the injury concern, how healthy he will be for the first round of the tournament. Do you consider sitting him out against the 16 seed? That's a bunch of questions Duke has to answer internally. But I still think that Duke will be fine. Next, crazy three head coaches in one little region. You got Rick Pitino's St. John's team, and then Calipari and Bill Self. One of these three coaches is going to face off in the round of 32, and two of them are already facing off in the round of 64. Insane. And then the history if Calipari wins, and it's Pitino versus Calipari, both not in Kentucky anymore with the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry, at two different teams in two different spots. But I think that their coaching history together could be such an intriguing round two game, and how this would just be very exciting. Analysts have predicted potential first-round upsets. The 13 seeds have been the most common, with it being Yale, Akron, and High Point beating their number 4 counterparts in Texas A&M, Arizona, and Purdue. The under-the-radar teams that I think have the best chance to surprise this year are number 11 VCU. I really love this team through the A10 tournament and just throughout this year. A very dangerous team. If you get through BYU, then you play a streaky Wisconsin team, and then you play an Alabama team if that's how the bracket leads up. And I think that they could even knock off the Alabama team, who plays not very much defense, and VCU is pretty good. The 11 seed is very underrated for them, with them being a top 30 KenPom team. So I think this has the chance to be the Cinderella story of this year. But it wouldn't really be Cinderella because, people see it coming. And then biasly, I think that Michigan, I know they're not an under-the-radar team, but I think that they have a very good draw. UC San Diego does not have the big men to guard Golden and Wolf. And then they could either play A&M or Yale, and A&M is the worst shooting team in the SEC. And I think Auburn has a chance to get knocked off early. Obviously not by the 16th seed, but I think that Louisville-Creighton game is going to be the best game this tournament. Which whatever team does end up winning that game, I think could even make it to the Sweet 16 and beat Auburn. I think Auburn is getting cold at the wrong time. I think the overall best team in this tournament is Florida. That's who I personally have winning the national championship. They're just so good with Clayton. He's a beast. And then just the overall reaction from the brackets. You question how Texas and North Carolina got in. I thought maybe one of them would get in, depending on the criteria, obviously. But I didn't think both of them, because they have such different resumes. How do you leave West Virginia out, especially when you say Tucker DeVries didn't play all year, so they took a knock? Or like he's hurt, but he's been hurt all year. West Virginia's been doing good without him. This Texas Xavier game is very interesting for me as an Indiana State fan as well. Jason Kent, Julian Larry, and Ryan Conwell, three ex-Indiana State basketball players from the Cinderella story last year, are playing each other in this one game. And I'm excited to watch that game and just how those boys ball out, and also how the freshman sensation for Texas, Trey Johnson, really just either makes himself a bona fide top 5 pick in the draft or shies away from the competition. We'll just have to see. And I also think Drake is a very under the radar team. I don't think as much with all the Instagram and TikTok analysts that are picking upsets. Mark Mitchell coming back does scare me a little bit for this sleeper pick, but if Drake can get past them, it'll be a tough matchup with Tech. But I still think that you make it to the round of 32 with a bunch of D2 All Americans, and that the ex Northwest Missouri State coach at Drake they have such a great season with Tucker DeVries and his dad last year, and then you just keep adding to it. What a great situation to be in. And the thing with St. John's and Michigan State, uh, no champion has ever been outside the top 25 or ever been outside the preseason top 25 rankings. So look for Michigan State and St. John's to get upset, even if they could get upset early too. Not They haven't even had one make it past the Sweet 16 in a while. Iowa State being one of those that lost in the Sweet 16 last year. There's just so much continuity with this March Madness, and make sure you're picking upsets because although this is the most chalk bracket we've seen in a while, with the one seeds being clear and above everyone else, it's March. You know that there's going to be a random Cinderella story that knocks off a 2 or a 1 seed, and everybody's going crazy. Just can't wait for this March Madness. I do have Michigan, Florida, Duke, and Houston in my Final Four. But I could see Houston get knocked off in the round of 32 by Mark Few. He's had 10 consecutive Sweet 16s. Gonzaga is a consistent team, never the top team. They were pretty good with Drew Timme, but that could be an upset there. I think Purdue is going to get beat by High Point. I think you're having the worst stretch of games. These last 8 games for Purdue, you kind of just fall away, crack under pressure. Braden Smith is overrated to me. Coming from a Michigan fan, it's a little biased. We won the series against Purdue this year. We won the series against Wisconsin and Maryland, but somehow we're ranked under all of them. But that's just a chip on your shoulder that you take to the tournament and continue this edge through March Madness. Don't fall into the trap of McNeese over Clemson. I fell for the McNeese trap last year, and I think Clemson is going to get to the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. I mean, this team is very good, and they're returning 4 of their 5 starters that they had last year, and they did so well in the tournament. But yeah, that's my overall reaction and some upset previews for March Madness. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode. I'll have another March Madness reaction episode coming out for y'all next week. And like, share, comment. Let me know what you want to see more. And as always,